Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to our Tuesday, December 6, 2022 Board of Education meeting. If I could have everyone rise for the pledge, which will be led by Vice President Malloy this evening, and followed by a moment of silence. And if you could remember Robert Coomer, the father of Patty Law, who passed away from our print shop. So if you could remember the Coomer and Law families. Shirley Bennett, who was a retired custodian from the Odyssey. If you could remember the Bennett family, and Josiah Rogers, he was a 5th grade student at Lakeshore. He passed away as well, so if you could keep the Rogers family in your thoughts and prayers, that'd be appreciated. So prayers for the Rogers family, the Bennett family, and the Law family. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can I have somebody move the agenda to the table, please? Moved by Mr. Sawicki, seconded by Ms. Flores. Any additions, deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor of the agenda? That passes 8-0. Our student leaders from Odyssey. Come on down. Good evening, ladies. Welcome.
Give us a moment. So, Odyssey Academy Fall Highlight 2022, presented by Saraya Alves, Faraja Kimpinde, Rania Saraj. This is Saraya, I'm Faraja, and this is Rania. Spirit Week. What do you think about when you hear the word Spirit Week? Usually I think about excitement, the full fun of it, the new idea, new presentation, and just bringing people together. During Spirit Week, we had different ideas, everyone joining in hand, and we presented things we could do for the school and make people want to come to school, feel like school is not just for study, but also a place where they can learn about other culture, new tradition, new events, and they can also feel excitement and feel like, I'm still a child, I can enjoy this stuff. We had red carpet day where we dress up as celebrities or like just fancy people, as you can see in the picture. And also in the picture, I'm the one in the gold. So we also had where people dress up as characters and, is this working? Oh.
Yeah, you're good.
So we also had people dress up. We had Cowboy Day, which this one we kind of took a long time. We were debating on should we do it or should we not, because it didn't represent the whole majority, but it was still fun. People still enjoy it, and that's all Spirit Week is about, enjoying the moment and having fun. And also, it's all about bringing spirit into students. You know, students are going through stuff, tests, and they have to work hard. So we need that little distraction to kind of keep them focused and enjoying the moment. Loyal student section through the fall sports session.
Good evening. My name is Saraya Alvarez. During the fall sports season, Odyssey scholars continue to show leopard pride by supporting their friends and attending the home games where they got to celebrate every time we had won a point.
That's all? Yeah. Okay. Odyssey Fall Senior Night. So I'm just going to read some of it off my phone. So the Odyssey Fall Senior Night is a traditional young high school athlete away for, as it's the celebration of some of the end of their youth sport career. Senior night is typically the last home game of the sports session. During senior night, the student and their parent go to court or field, and the seniors are celebrated, recognized by their fan, their teammates, and coach. Friends, usually they give flowers, balloon, and many things for the seniors to kind of make sure and tell them that they are remembered and loved, and we hope them they have the best futures ever. As you can see in the pictures, it was a very exciting moment for the seniors, and they kind of showed like they're moving into more adulthood. They're going into their real world, and they have to leave some of the excitement behind. So as a senior night, we kind of like bring them in and remind them that they can still be a child, they can still enjoy the school spirit and still have fun, even later on in the future.
Avid Scholars Trip to Buffalo. Avid scholars in grades 9 to 12 had an opportunity to take a trip to University of Buffalo, where they received a free tour around the campus and experienced the college life. And me personally, I was one of the Avid students who went to UB, and I really loved it because I had got to see the whole campus and got to experience the college life, and I felt like it was a great opportunity.
Some of you probably wonder what AVID. AVID is a program that helps students kind of prepare for college and many other things like studying, way to benefit in school, and way to prepare yourself for other things in life. AVID is still something that many people are still learning about. It's kind of still fresh, but it's going to become big later on as people learn more about it and see the benefit of AVID. As you can see in the picture, the students seem to be brought together by AVID. When I was in AVID, it was a time where it was kind of like a study hall, but at the same time we did work and learn more about like the future, what college we wanted to go to, planning and studying tip. So AVID is something amazing, and I should recommend if you have kids, let them join.
Black Panther 2 premiere with Avid 11. So, in my grade, I'm a junior who attends Odyssey Academy, and my Avid 11 group all planned together with me and my principal, Mr. Hepburn, and Mr. Belinsky, a teacher who works at Odyssey Academy, and we all planned to go see the premiere of Black Panther 2. And to be honest, it was a good movie. If you have not seen it yet, I recommend that you go see it because it was very good.
Good evening, I'm Rania Siraj, and I'm an 11th grader in Odyssey Academy. As you can see in the pictures, we held a school event. It was a skating party and a game night. And the game night was held at Horizon Fun Effects, and we played laser tag and everything. It was so fun. We also had a game night. We played games like Uno and Trouble. It was very fun. Okay, Response to Emergencies, also known as RTE, is a comprehensive program that is designed to give students the knowledge and skills necessary to help lives in emergency situations. RTE enables students to work hands-on with EMTs, firefighters, and the police. After successfully passing the course, students will be CPR ready and EMT certified. So that's really good. The program is perfect for students that are interested in pursuing careers in the medical field, and especially students who want to become firefighters and like EMTs, paramedics, and police officers. And yeah, any type of first responder. Do you want to add anything? No. Yeah.
Thank you for listening. It was such a wonderful time presenting the fun and best part of our school. That's all.
Before you guys sit down, we started we're going to have you guys come up and take a picture with the board. So if you don't mind coming up, we'd appreciate that.
How are you, sir? Good to see you. Good.
Next up, we have GTA. Kara?
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Well, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Welcome.
Good. Hi, everyone. Good evening, Board of Education members, Superintendent Groutman, and newly elected members. I have not met you yet, so I'm happy to see you. My name's Kara Manjarovic. I'm here representing the Greece Teachers Association as the unit's Vice President for Educational Programs. This is my second year in the role and have served our union in other capacities previously as well. Most importantly, I am a second grade teacher at Autumn Lane. It is my 24th year. Yes. One of my responsibilities is to help facilitate access to professional learning and continuous learning for our GTA members. What's most exciting about this now is that Greece teachers have been given the opportunity to participate in choice professional learning opportunities. With the inception and ratification of our new contract that GTA and GCSD negotiated in great faith, Greece teachers now have the opportunity to choose up to 20 hours of professional learning of their choice. This item in our contract allows instructional staff to access areas of specific interest and broaden their learning to bring back to the students in their classroom. Like a perfect example would be an AP physics teacher able to take part in a professional development very specific to his or her subject area and then bring it back to the classroom for his or her students' needs, which might not have been available before in our normal professional learning or professional development. Our teachers are excited and reinvigorated about this chance to deepen their skill set. As they often are doing, they'll turnkey the learning with other staff members in an effort to motivate students. Teachers can begin with themselves. So we have the opportunity to try something new with easily accessible professional learning, whether it's a workshop or webinar or even a field trip. Many groups have also done. The resources are unlimited in an effort to help us all reimagine how to promote student growth as well as our own professional growth. We worked very, very hard on this on Wednesday afternoons all spring long. So this was such a collaborative effort between GCSD and GTA, and so we want to thank you all for that. There are choices within the Teacher Center catalogs, which teachers have access to across New York State. So for example, if a district's Teacher Center on Long Island is offering a webinar, we get to take it, and that goes toward our hours, and it's very exciting. Our teachers are also providing other teachers with professional learning opportunities. So we can create book studies or study groups, instructor-led development, or even independent studies, similar to maybe what you would have seen in a college-type course. I do encourage you all to take a look at the Professional Learning Center tab on our Greece Central School District homepage. Marguerite Dimba and I write a newsletter together 3 times a year, which includes all the information. And if you click around and go to our newsletter, it's all right in there, and it's very exciting stuff. Within this GTA and GCSD collaboration, Marguerite and I also attend, or will be attending, the Teacher Center Spring Symposium in Albany in March. This year and last, our own Teacher Center planned that entire symposium, which was full of very relevant workshops led by teachers from around the state. It's a very exciting time, and teachers have taken hundreds of hours so far in their own professional learning and have been able to make choices in it, which is really exciting. So thanks for your time. Please know that Greece teachers appreciate your continued effort and support on behalf of our students always. Have a wonderful holiday season and a Happy New Year, everyone.
Thanks, Kara.
Thanks. You're welcome.
Next up, Mr. Jones.
All right. Hello, everybody. It's good to see you all. Listen, I am Brandon Jones. I'm the principal at Craig Hill Elementary, but some of my Odyssey students reminded me of my roots. I went to say hello to them, and they go, "Don't you remember you had the Lululemon bag and you would collect our cell phones?" Oh, okay, they didn't do the pouches when I was there, so I had to do the hard work, all right. Okay, well, anyhow, Brandon Jones, principal at Craig Hill, here to update you all on GASA. This is my first time presenting to the board in this forum, and what I will say, it was really cool when I reached out to my GASA colleagues to ask them for input to present to you guys, and what my colleagues are doing around the district is just really exciting. I don't know if anybody does it quite like we do it here in Greece, and we should be really proud. I was, at least, when I was reading and putting together this presentation. So thank you for your time, and we'll get going. Listen, let's start with Arcadia Middle School. Mr. Lum wants us to know that they are continuing their professional learning around Zaretta Hammond's book, Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain, and really making sure that it's woven in with their AVID instructional strategies. There was one group, our GTA rep just spoke, there was one group who has used their Choice PL to really dig into those AVID instructional strategies, and they have gone back and turnkeyed some of what they learned to the staff at Arcadia Middle. And then, of course, Mr. Lum wanted me to remind folks that you have 2 more nights to go on over to Arcadia and see their Holiday Tree Gala, a festival of lights on the Arcadia campus. And of course, we had Brookside. Brookside, they're keeping these kids in shape at Brookside, okay? They had their Kindness Week, the week of November 14th. There was a school-wide assembly to celebrate Kindness Week. They had Superintendent Groutman there as their guest speaker. And then, of course, the PE and the mental health team hosted a wellness fair for students. They were able to participate in health and wellness activities, which included Taekwondo, mindfulness, and yoga, and I can tell you my back was just sore reading that, okay? Taekwondo, all right. 5th grade student leaders were able to raise $263 for Toys for Tots by doing a November coin drive. How cool is that? English Village, they gave out Be Kind t-shirts that was organized by their PTA. This week, staff members are participating in their Ready Math training. Upcoming, they have their Very Good Kids Awards. Each class will honor one student who best exemplifies their 3 R's, their character traits, as well as their Leader in Me habits. Their SIP Goal 3 attendance, they are very excited to announce that they are closing the gap when it comes to attendance between certain subgroups. And then, of course, they participated in the Shop with a Cop last weekend, not just English Village, but a lot of our elementary schools participated in Shop with a Cop this past Saturday. I know there was one little guy at Craig Hill who was super excited to come up and tell me about his experience with Shop with a Cop. That was very awesome. Olympia, listen, Olympia inducted 37th and 8th graders into the National Junior Honor Society last week. I mean, those kids are working hard, 37th and 8th graders. Panthers, the Pine Brook Panthers, listen, they're halfway to meeting their fresh air, fun, wildly important goal of 7,007 minutes school-wide. If they meet their goal, they will celebrate with an outdoor dance party. It's going to be quite chilly, but I guess if they're going to be dancing, keep the body warm. This will be their first attempt at a school-wide Leader in Me goal. Listen, the Pine Brook, their 5th graders are celebrating their first ever Esperanza Day at the end of November after finishing their 5th grade common text, Esperanza Rising. Students made traditional dolls, listened to a Mexican Cinderella tale, made homemade salsa, and much more. Also as exciting, the 1213 students at Pine Brook went bowling. A lot of our kids across the district did that. A lot of our students with special needs at Craig Hill as well. Again, those kids came off the bus. They went on the bus at Craig Hill a little nervous, but then they got off the bus just exciting and wanted more, and I'm sure that's what happened at Pine Brook as well. A 4th grader has started a school-wide collaboration to fill a tree display in the foyer with leaves. On the leaves, K-5 students have expressed their ideas of how they can spread kindness. Talk about changing the world right there, right? It's really cool. Office of School and Career Pathways wants you to know that Athena and Arcadia participated in the Junior Achievement Entrepreneurial Summit on November 18th. Students were put into random groups with a mentor where they generated an idea for a business. The group also delivered a professional pitch that they presented to judges, and then the top 3 teams pitched the entire group. The winners were decided by all participants present. Congratulations to Mariala Sosa, Taylor Spriggs, Tommy Hogan, Julian Montiagliano, Giancarlo Pickering, who took first place and won Rocket Books. Really exciting for those group of kids. Listen, Department of World Language had a really exciting thing to share. We need to congratulate Mrs. Wilder from Athena for earning the 2022 Distinguished Service Award for American Association of Teachers of Italian. This award recognizes members of distinguished service in the field of Italian, language, literature, cinema, culture, and civilization. And of note, Mrs. Wilder has been teaching Italian, get this, for 43 years. Right, I don't think she's in the room, but can we just give her a round of applause? And last but not least, the Craig Hill Cougars. I see a Craig Hill guy over there sitting right there. He just did a yes, I love that. Listen, the staff at Craig Hill, we continue to engage in professional learning, whether it's our choice professional learning or our Tuesday meetings around instruction. Our most recent topics included feedback protocols and VERV. VERV is meaning, taking kids with that enthusiasm and that energy and making sure that we're using that in our class and not misinterpreting it as negative behaviors. We had our first Leader in Me school-wide celebration. So in the past, students used to earn what we call Cougar Cash for demonstrating the Leader in Me habits, and then they could turn those in for, little trinkets, toys, pencils, etc. This year, we decided to shift gears and make it a little more communal, where students would collect their Cougar Cash, turn it in, and once we made a school-wide goal, we would have a school-wide celebration instead of individual. And let me tell you, we had that last Friday. And it was something, okay? You could see the pictures. I got pied in the face, okay, with some other teachers because they made their goal. Mr. Keelan had his hair put in a mohawk, right? Some students did some great things around some skits around the Leader in Me habits. They presented the school with this check for their Cougar Cash, and they acknowledged our next goal of 2,000 Cougar Cash for our next celebration. I'm a little nervous. You guys might, hear me call. I might have to be out because if I got pied in the face this time, I'm really worried what will happen next, okay? And then lastly, if you haven't heard, Craig Hill made the final round for the Democrat and Chronicles Community Choice Awards for Best Public School in the area. Tomorrow we find out, so it's been quite some time. We are the top 3. Tomorrow we find out if we are indeed the winners. Myself, Mr. Keelan, Superintendent Groutman, and Assistant Superintendent Val Payne, we are going to be going, and it's going to be like the Oscars. I got my speech ready, okay? I'll be very disappointed if I don't get to give my speech, but we are super excited. So please wish us luck, and hopefully Thursday morning you'll be seeing some announcements saying that one of our Greece schools has made it as the best school in the area. Folks, with that said, I would just like to thank you all from GASA. We could not lead, and I'm talking about leader because GASA, we are leaders. We could not lead this effectively without the support of a board like you all and a superintendent's cabinet like you all. You all do the hard work here. You do that lifting around policies and procedures to allow us to do our work in the building. So thank you for that. We really do appreciate you guys. Have a great evening.
Before you leave, Mr. Jones, Brandon, I'm just going to say, you did awesome. I'm going to, from now on, starting next month, whenever anybody presents, they're going to have to live to the Jones standard. So everybody watch and figure it out. So I'm going to grade them on the Jones standard next month. So you did an awesome job. Thank you, sir. All right, next up I have AgSept. Is there anybody here from AgSept that would like to speak? Anybody from GUS that would like to speak? Teamsters. Karen, welcome. I didn't see you back there. Yeah, you got a tough hill to climb, Karen. I'm expecting a lot, though. Come on.
Oh, boy. Not quite what I expected. Good evening, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I am Karen Costera. I'm the business agent for Teamsters Local 118. Just a little bit about myself first. I came to the district in 2009 as a second career after 25 years in private sector. I became a bus attendant, bus driver, steward, and now business agent. First, I'd like to also thank the board, the cabinet, and Superintendent Groutman for supporting and approving the 3 recent Teamsters contracts, all of which were approved overwhelmingly by the membership. So thank you for that. And I want to take the opportunity tonight to talk a little bit about things that are upcoming in the transportation department. This Friday, in this building downstairs in the Commons area, is a craft sale starting at 9 o'clock in the morning. employees will be hosting this and showing off their artistic event or artistic talents, which I don't have any of. So there's about 18 of them that are going to be selling their things. So if you're in the area, to stop down in the Commons area in this building at 9 o'clock on Friday. From now until the 19th of December, the department will be collecting non-perishable food as well as personal hygiene items. These items will be donated to the Greece Central Food Pantry in hopes to bring joy to the families in need. And in keeping with the holiday spirit, there will be a luncheon on December 21st with turkeys being prepared by Arcadia kitchen staff, as well as employees bringing a dish to pass. This has been an event that has been going on for years. COVID intercepted for a while, didn't have it at Kodak, and so now we came to here last January, and so we're getting that back in the swing of things. If anybody is interested in stopping down on the 21st, saying hi, grabbing a little something to eat, that'd be great. Again, I want, make it short and sweet. Sorry, Brandon. And thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight, and I wish you all a happy and safe holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. And I was a little remiss, I'm sorry to my students. Usually if you guys want to sneak out, I usually let you sneak out before comments, and I kind of slip through that. So if you guys want to sneak out, you're more than welcome. If you want to stay, I'd love to have you stay, but it's up to you. Okay. Sure. All right, moving on. Residents Forum. Elizabeth Cade, all my public speakers will speak at this microphone here. You have a hard 4 minutes, so when your 4 minutes are up, we're going to cut you off. I'll remind you to stop, but I'm going to cut you off at the 4-minute mark, okay? Welcome, Mrs. Cade.
Hello, can everybody hear me? I don't really speak too loud, so I'm hoping. Okay, there we go. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Cade. I am the parent of 2 children that we live in Greece, but we use Ontario transportation to get the kids to Rochester Prep J Street and Rochester Prep Brooks. And I guess there was a decision made in regards to the policy for there's going to be no changes to any bus stops for the entire year once you submit your bus form. And I guess I'm just here to ask you guys to reconsider that decision that was made. Back in April, between April to June, when we are required to submit this form, we don't know what's going to happen for the school year. So for us to, I get the form in because I need to make sure my child has a bus. And so now September comes, and I get the bus information, and I find out that they're coming, at random times, and I can't work it out with my with my work schedule. I got daycare. I got daycare situated as soon as I found out the bus times. And then I was informed that we can't make any changes. So with this, we're at risk of losing our jobs. My husband is going into work late every single day because my daughter's bus doesn't come until about 8:20. And then I'm getting off early. I luckily have my daycare provider who's helping me right now. And I don't know how long she's going to be able to do it. She is going to be one of the speakers. But she's leaving her home with her children, the children that she's watching, to come pick my child up from my house to go back to her home. And it's causing big problems. So if she can't do that, then I'm at risk of losing my job as well. Things are not the way they were over the past few years during COVID. My job used to let me leave, get them, bring them to work with me. We can't do that anymore. So for me and my husband to risk losing our jobs over a bus that passes by my daycare's house every single day, literally passes by it, it just doesn't make any sense for me. And then when I call in and they tell me that I need to tell school, the child's school, to come up with a after-school program. That is what they gave me. Tell your your school to put together an after-school program, then you won't need daycare. Or tell your neighbors, have your neighbors put your kids on a bus or take them off the bus. This doesn't make any sense, especially because they pass by my the daycare. And I work in HR. I've worked in HR basically since out of college. I understand policies, I understand procedures, but I also understand that some things have to be case-by-case basis. And if they really evaluated the bus route and seen that they passed by the daycare, it would make sense to them that it should be okay to make that change. It's probably helping the situation so that kids can be on the bus for a least amount of time. So I'm just bringing this to you today because it is causing a lot of issues between me, my husband, my kids, and my daycare provider. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you, Mrs. Cade. Next up, we have Joanna Lagona, sorry.
I first want to commend the board. This is a beautiful place. It beats what we had over at district office, and I am glad to see a lot of familiar faces, and Jeremy and Debbie and Kathy and Bill and Terry. Sorry, I don't know the rest of you, but my name is Joanne Lagona, and I live at 194 Sandalwood Drive. I was an employee for Greece Central for 30 years and just retired 4 years ago, but I am still a district sub. My last 11 years was with Craig Hill School, and I'm sorry, I don't know where you went. I'm sorry, I missed having you as a principal when I was there, but we did have a good principal. One of my many responsibilities was working with transportation. With as many students that Greece has, there are often issues with the busing of the students. And I have to tell you that I was always able to resolve problems with the people I knew in transportation. I'm here tonight to ask why there is such a problem with accommodating the busing of the students who are in the daycare of my daughter. She has managed the daycare at 153 Wood Road for 24 years. Students were always picked up and dropped off there where she was able to be getting the students off the bus. She was given information on the problem of having to drive to she has given information is the problem of driving to a student's home because the bus would not bring the student to her home. She also has to rush back home to get the other students off the corner of her street where she has other toddlers with her, which is very difficult, especially with the cold weather. While she has been told that transportation and the superintendent that they will not change this for her, I'm just wondering why not. No one has to go out of the way to do anything of great magnitude to make the change. My daughter is asking for transportation to emphasize the importance of having a child's safety and first at hand. I don't know why a transportation employee would have told a parent that a third grader could also take the children off the bus, and why also that the comment was Mrs. Cole shouldn't have as many daycare kids in her program. And that was a quote. During COVID, she opened up her house to all the students that she had. She had desks set up for them. She worked with the Chromebook. She did everything possible to make it as easy as possible for the students not to miss their class. All I can say is that the people who ran transportation while I worked for Greece always had the students' best interests at heart. I believe the simple change that is being asked for should be granted, and I also choose joy.
Thank you, Joanne. Mrs. Cole, Renee Cole?
Hi. My name's Renee Cole. I am the daycare provider they're talking about. I've been doing this since 2002. I've always had these buses at my house, which helped a lot when they were just at the driveway, which is safer in the winter because sidewalks are not plowed. So I have to take 2 toddlers, an infant, 4 students to get them on 2 different buses and stand outside in the cold with an infant. Picking them up in the end of the day, I'm driving a half a mile to pick up 1 student, come home. That bus is anywhere between 10 after 3 to 3:30. So if I'm late coming back, I'm missing 2 other buses, which 3rd graders, I know they're allowed to get off alone, but if I'm not home, that's not safe. I was told there's no changes. I know of 3 students who's had their stops changed, who are not even in a daycare. One's a 5th grader, and one's in high school. The regulations for my daycare, the children are not allowed alone if they're off the property. So to expect them to get off the bus, walk to my house alone, I'm liable. They all pass my house. The one that I have to pick up in the afternoon is a half a mile. As I'm coming home, the bus is right behind me. So that child's on the bus an extra 10 minutes. The weather's getting really bad. I've already lost 2 kids, which is my income. I'm a single mom, because I couldn't take 3 kids with me to go pick up 2 others and so forth. I'm just asking that it was, they go back to the way they were. I am licensed. It's not like I'm just a babysitter. I'm a licensed daycare just like any other one. The one little boy, his parents are at risk with their jobs, which isn't fair to them. The paperwork for one child was sent in March, and they still wouldn't change her stop. Just very scary standing at the corner. There's, it's a busy road. Cars go through the stop sign. They don't stop when the red lights are on the bus. And if the sidewalks are not plowed, we're in the road, risking a toddler, an infant, my son, and 3 others getting hurt. So I'm just asking that to put it back to where it was at 153 Wood Road.
Thank you, Mrs. Cole.
Thank you.
Corinne Grant?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Corinne Grant. This is my little guy, Zane. He is a kindergartner this year, first year in school, and we have been using Renee as a daycare provider. I have 4 kids total, and I've had 3 others go through her over the span of probably about 15 years.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Yep, thank you.
Sorry, you want me to start over?
No, you can
Okay,
continue.
all right. So in the past 15 years, my kids have all had the stop right at Renee's house at 153 Wood Road. As Renee mentioned, Wood Road is a very busy street. It's right off of Ridge Road. It's often used as a pass-through to get to places like the mall. I lived there myself for 15 years. I just moved 2 years ago. Cars fly through there. They roll through stop signs if they stop. I've personally seen them go past school buses with the red flashers on. I think it's pretty standard in Greece that only one side of the sidewalk is plowed, which leaves my little nugget just kind of hanging out in the corner of the street. You're not a nugget. You're my nugget.
Not a nugget.
My little parrot.
Not a parrot.
Cutting into my time, kid. So I guess when I originally sent in the request, it's on the corner of Wood and Charles, which literally is only 2 houses down. I know that doesn't seem like much. But in the same sense, the school bus drives right past the house every single day. So I guess in the same sense, just adjusting it by 2 houses doesn't seem like much of a big change either, on the flip side of the coin. I do have concern for his safety, mainly because of having to stand out in the road with Renee being torn into a million different pieces trying to get all the other kids situated. I have, personal fear that she might not be able to make it on time in order to get him on and off the bus. It was actually told that her son, who is a third grader, could get him off the bus, which is not okay with me. An 8-year-old should not be in charge of a 5-year-old, especially with a licensed daycare. And I guess I'm just looking for, when I wrote in asking for a change, it was also stated that there were other kids at the bus stop, which is not accurate. Zane is the only pickup there. We live off of Coon Road and over on Wood Road, so he goes to Patty Hill, so there aren't many other kids in the area that are going to Patty Hill. So I guess I'm just kind of asking for the safety of my child, for the other children that go to Renee, and for poor Renee's sanity, that it be reconsidered to have at a universal stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Jordan Stencil. Welcome, Jordan.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. For those who don't know me yet, my name is Jordan Stenzel. I am a second-generation alumni of the district. I actually graduated from Olympia High School in 2004. I currently have a 13-year-old daughter named August who's at Olympia Middle School. Such a weird thing how things have changed over time. I'm an active parent in the community. I go to the parent exchange meetings. I've also been at the community schools meeting, and I try to get involved as much as I can and give back to the community. So I have a lot of ideas that I would like to propose to you here in a positive, uplifting solution. I know a lot of times there's a lot of complaints here and whatnot, but I'm here to just bring solutions, and I thank you for your time. So the first thing I want to talk about is community schools. So as I mentioned, recently I went to a community schools meeting, which, as you know, covers different things such as access to food, community mental health counseling, clothing, family engagement, and parental engagement and supportive coordination, among other things. One area of feedback I'd like to offer you here, in my 2 cents, is considering a partnership with local community centers or federally qualified health lookalikes that can provide low-cost, free health services to families and children in need, especially in our district. The reason this is because a lot of times these families use the emergency room or urgent care as their primary care in the community, and I'd like to try and reduce that by bridging the gap there with a partnership. So some ideas that come to mind are Anthony Jordan, Trillium Health, Oak Orchard, Finger Lakes Community Health, his branches, and Mosaic Health. These are just a few examples of FQHCs that really could work together, and I think they would love to work together with someone like you to really bridge that gap and bring quality health care that values diversity, equity, and inclusion into the district. The next thing I want to talk about is the Greece Olympia Early College High School. This didn't exist when I went to Olympia, so this is an amazing opportunity. I don't know how you guys got involved in it, but I'm really excited about it. And so my ask here is, I know this comes from a state grant, investigate, if you haven't already, other funding avenues to expand this. I know that every year they're only able to take like 40 students or whatnot, to expand it not only within Greece Olympia, but to offer it to Arcadia, Odyssey, Athena, and all the other high schools involved, right? I think doing this will set Greece apart from other schools in the district as an innovator. It also provides students the ability to pursue a 4-year degree while also reducing costs for families, especially those with low socioeconomic status. The last thing I want to talk about is the parent exchange pilot at Greece Olympia. As I've told you before, I'm part of the parent exchange. I've gone to several of the meetings and offered my input as a single father. During the last PLTI exchange meeting, I kind of expressed how passionate I am about it, and I wanted to kind of give back by offering a parent exchange specifically for each school. So I proposed with the different community schools coordinators and the parent exchange and support coordinators that I would like to pilot this here at Greece Olympia. So we're actually meeting in a couple weeks to brainstorm and go over it. And then the idea is to have an individualized parent exchange at Greece Olympia where I would host it along with our partners there. The idea here would be that the results of this pilot program would then be presented at some point back at this meeting here to show you the successes and failures and the opportunities that we've learned from, right? And so that we can then push this, hopefully if successful, at other Greece Central School sites. The idea, again, is designed with the public interest in mind, and with my last 10 seconds, thank you, have a great holiday, and I appreciate you giving me the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Mary, Lakey, welcome back. Sneaking out? Thank you. Good night. Yep, absolutely.
I look forward to the time that I can bring good news. However, I'd like to make you aware of several bills in the legislature currently. The first one is Assembly Bill A9963.
Mrs. Lakey, I'm going to cut you off here. I mean, there's 10,000 bills that go before the Senate and the Assembly that are just bills that don't go anywhere.
Okay.
So, I mean, until they really get adopted, or at least during committee level, which there's no bills in committee yet, they haven't been assigned to committee, I'm going to cut you off in talking about them. If you have something else you'd like to
Okay.
reference, that'd be fine.
What I will mention is they do involve removing parental approval.
But again, they're just,
okay.
they're a one-member bill, and they're probably not going to gain traction. I mean,
Well,
there's
the
10,000
interment,
bill- I'm not going to argue with you.
All right, the interment bills were pulled from the legislature in the fall, and they got through as regulations in the agencies.
Okay.
So even though they don't go to
Okay.
committee and they may go nowhere,
Ms.
they
Lakey, I'm
may
going to
still.
cut you off. It's
All
not
right.
relevant to the
Let
business of
me-
the Greece Central School District.
Let me just finish. If,
Nope, I'm not going to let
No,
you finish.
I
I'm going
will-
to cut you off.
not talk about specific bills,
Okay.
okay? I would just like to remind the board members that if they support unconstitutional measures, mandates, whatever, they are not exonerated from punishment because you still have the pledge, the oath you took to the constitutions of the United States and New York State. That's all.
Thank you, Mrs. Lakey. Next up, we have Mr. Thayer, Ryan Thayer. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Thayer, Greece resident for 18 years now. I've had 3 students, children. You were one of my kids' principals for a couple years. They've gone through Long Ridge and on to Odyssey, all 3 of them. My son is a graduate of 2021. He went on to college. I want to talk about my youngest son, who is still a student at Odyssey, and what's been going on in the last year. Sometime last year, in about April, March, he told me he was being bullied for being short. That moved on from not only being short, he was called a racial slur, he was called homophobic slurs. It kind of got worse and worse. I talked to the vice principal over the phone 4 different times. And then on March of 24, there was an incident in the lunchroom where his book bag was picked up and thrown by another student. It was caught on camera. I met with that vice principal in the, sorry, I'm shaking, in the parking lot that day. My son did not want to go back to class. He spent the rest of the day in the office. He met me in the parking lot, and I was told it was boys being boys. In 2022, we're still treating boys and girls different, I guess. The bullying, he said it slowed down. In June, I found out it didn't slow down. He was actually being mocked more because he told. Nothing was done. June 9th, he was suspended because he hit a kid. He had enough, and he punched him. That kid had pushed him and punched him on 2 different occasions. That boy hasn't touched him since. I hate that he got to the point where he thought he had to use violence. On June 16th, he sent me a message that there was a piece of a bar that was about 6 inches in the cafeteria, and a boy that had been bullying him before told him in front of a large group of kids that he would like to sit on that and ride it. I immediately called not the current now, the previous principal, and I told him everything that was going on. He had no idea. Went through everything. I even sent him a text message with a picture of what my son sent me. I have proof of it. He said he would take the boys out of the classroom and talk to them. Nothing happened over the final 4 days of school. My call on the last day of school went uncalled. I'm running out of time. This year started out good. Not really big incidents. This principal has done a fairly good job. I'm going to miss that. He's gotten better. I don't want to forget that. It's gotten better. He's told me he's gotten better. On October 4th, he got into a disagreement in gym class over who won a game with a girl, him and a girl. That girl sent her brother after him. That boy came up behind him and pulled him down, and he smacked his head on the ceramic floor. I didn't get a call from the vice principal, the principal, or security. The nurse called me. I picked him up. I refused to leave. I met with the current principal. He told me it would be handled. That was a Friday. On a Tuesday, Monday he was mocked. He didn't want to go to Tuesday. I talked to the principal on Tuesday. He said it would happen. This is where I have a big problem. On October 24th, that boy came back to school. I was told there'd be mediation. There was not mediation. That boy wasn't ready to be in a class, in an office with my son and the principal, and I feel that is completely unacceptable. If that boy was not ready to sit down and talk, he wasn't ready to be in school. There's been another incident. I had a call to the superintendent. That was not returned. My son isn't comfortable going to school. Why is it? We're not holding these kids accountable for what they're doing. And there needs to be changes. And it's very hard as a parent to tell my kid every day to, ignore them. I can't do it anymore. Sorry about that. We'll be back next month.
Thank you, Mr. Thayer.
What privilege, President?
I know my time. My son's gotten better. It's gotten better. I don't want to throw him under the bus. It's not what it's about. He's doing a good job.
Thank you.
I like where it's going. It took a year to get here, and I'm upset.
We'll give Mr. Hepburn the ability to work on it, and hopefully Mr. Hepburn can get this situation resolved for you. All right, thank you. Yep.
Point of privilege, since we've reduced the amount of speaking time with another speaker, could we extend another minute? I know Mr. Thayer was
No.
rushing through that.
No, that's a hard board policy, 4 minutes. Thank you. All right, our next speaker is Mr. Milan, Miguel Milan. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. My name is Miguel Milan, and I'm a parent leader. I'm a recent graduate of the Parent Leadership Training Institute. I have 4 children, one that attended Patty Hill across the street, K through 2nd grade. Very quickly, it became evident that my son wasn't learning how to read. The educators continued to double down on strategies and approaches that were being used in the classroom through his RTI, and he made minimal to no progress. Not to worry, he's a boy, we were told. And sometimes they take longer to catch on. We were patient for 3 whole years until 2nd grade came to an end, and our son was still not reading. But they were going to pass him. He became despondent at school and would crawl under the desk to hide or shut down on assignments that he couldn't read. This was inconsistent to the boy we knew at home. Something wasn't right. My wife started to research and connect with other parents of struggling readers. The journey since has opened our eyes to this silent pandemic that is happening across our schools. Many kids are not learning to read. We are blessed at our house that we had the resources to provide our son with the proper literacy education beyond what Greece was providing. Truly blessed that we could do that. Recently, the NISA data released indicates that Greece indicates only 31% of your 3rd through 8th graders are proficient in ELA. So out of 10,000 plus students roaming the halls, 7,000 of them aren't learning how to read and write properly. If we break it down further into subgroups, the lowest scores of our students are with disabilities, English language learners, and Black or African American students at 3%, 13%, and 17% respectively. I understand many educators dismiss this data for a host of reasons, but I'm a part of the public, and these numbers should be transparent to us. If your internal numbers tell a different story, I request that the superintendent share the numbers publicly. Share your iReady, your school pace data to us, your district comprehensive improvement plan, the ELA achievement at overall 52%. What about the other half? Numbers seem to be screaming a tier 1 instruction problem. And since I'm running out of time, and unfortunately I did scratch off a lot of things here, and this is my first time doing this, so forgive me. I'll leave you with this. As a business and local business owner, if my numbers reflect what the numbers of the district is, I'd be out of business. Okay? We need to do better in literacy for these children, and it needs to start now, because every day.
Thank you, Mr. Milan. That concludes our public comment portion this evening. Thank you to all my speakers. Superintendent Groutman.
So I'd like to just respond to the literacy point, if you don't mind. Just a couple of points that I would like to just say out loud to the group. One is what you identify is a significant issue. It's an issue here in Greece. It's an issue in New York State. It's an issue across the country. And quite frankly, I don't think there's anybody here that would argue that 31% is good enough for any of our kids. So there's no one that's defending that. I also just want to point out that it follows trends. It follows really what we have learned to expect in terms of socioeconomics, and the fact that in Greece, where we have a needier community, we're seeing lower scores. I say that only to acknowledge it because our teachers are just as good as teachers on the east side, and yet they continue to outperform us. I don't think it's because they all of a sudden know how to teach reading so much better in 2nd grade in a different community. I say that not as an excuse, but just as a fact. We continue to use all sorts of data, and the ELA scores are 1 point in time. We have recently, over the last 2 years, particularly with increases in foundation aid, been really blessed with being able to add more interventionists and language development teachers at the younger levels, because this isn't an issue when kids are in 2nd grade. It's really an issue that they come to school with us not ready, and then continuing to teach reading and maybe not have the supports just exacerbates that and sometimes widens it. So we've worked really hard to add additional interventionists and language development teachers because we have more aid, and also because of the stimulus money that we've been provided. We've continued to expand our UPK programming because, again, we know kids that are coming to us more prepared and who have more exposure to learning do better. And we've continued to examine and make changes in our curriculum. I would point out we're also working on attendance because some of the students that we're finding that are struggling and that are in that area are also connected to really patterns of attendance where they're not here as often. So we need to work on that in some cases. I would point out that our graduation rates are high.
Our graduation rates in most places are 93%, between 91 and 93% at our high schools, which tells me that we're doing something right in between. To graduate, students need to pass gatekeeper exams. They need to actually complete the requirements that the state has provided, and we've done well there. So I want to acknowledge the fact that, yes, we need to do better with literacy. I want to acknowledge the fact that there is work to do. But I also just want to make sure that people know that it is an area that we're committed to, we're passionate about. And I would also ask that if people have questions and want to talk about literacy, that you call, make an appointment. We have people in this room that I know have met with folks here in the room and who are always willing to talk more about the work that we are doing as a school district to improve. That's all.
Thank you, Superintendent Grutman. All right, moving on to staffing. Can I suddenly move the staffing to the table, please? Moved by Vice President Moore, seconded by Mrs. Farmer. Any comments, questions, or concerns on staffing? Seeing none, all is in favor? Any opposed? That item passes 8-0. Before I call on Mr. Smalling, I just want to, Greg Hale is retiring. He's been a longtime facility ops employee. He's going to be sorely missed, but we wish him well in his retirement. Greg has done a tremendous amount of work on behalf of the Greece Central School District, so I just want to wish him well in his retirement. Mr. Smalling?
Okay, good evening. I would like to be the first to congratulate Miss Allison Weiss on her appointment this evening as acting assistant principal at Pine Brook School. Allison has been, all right. Allison has been a part of the Greece Central School District for 8 years. She attended Nazareth College, SUNY Brockport, and the University of Rochester. Prior to joining the Greece Central School District, Allison worked as at a consulting firm with companies across the Rochester area, and she taught in the Rochester City School District. Allison's favorite part of her job within education is forming relationships with students, staff, and families. She also enjoys working with teams to find what works best for students and celebrating their achievements. Allison is looking forward to bringing her work to Pine Brook and having the opportunity to work with the staff and families to support their K-5 students. Outside of the building, Allison is part of multiple committees in the district, ranging from Culture and Climate Committee to Code of Conduct, and is excited to integrate the information from those committees and put it into practice in her new role. Congratulations, Allie.
Allie, I'm going to make you and Andrea, Dr. Payne, and Superintendent Groutman take a picture. Welcome. Congratulations. We do it over there. I'm moving on to item 2.02, tenure. Can I suddenly move that to the table, please? Moved by Mrs. Farmer, seconded by Mr. Zwick. Any comments, questions, or concerns on the tenure appointments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That passes 8-0. Moving on to 2.03, the GASA MOA. Can I suddenly move that to the table, please? Moved by Mr. Zwick, seconded by Ms. Flores. Any comments, questions, or concerns on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That passes 8-0. Moving on to the AgSept MOA. Can I suddenly move that to the table, please? Moved by Mr. Maloney, seconded by Ms. Flores. Any comments, questions, concerns on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That passes 8-0. Moving on to the non-unit rate sheet. Can I suddenly move that to the table, please? Moved by Ms. Farmer, seconded by Ms. Flores. Any comments, questions, concerns on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That passes 8-0. Moving on to career pathway update. Superintendent Groutman.
Yeah, I'm going to introduce and have Corey Skinner come on up with Mr. Todd Smith. Just to give a little bit of context, as students come into our high schools, I think, Mr. Stenzel, you mentioned the early college point from Olympia. We have a number of ways that our students navigate and move through high school. So there's New York State that has certain requirements that students must meet in order to graduate. But what we've worked really hard to do in Greece is create some unique pathways and ways for students to get interesting and unique opportunities that really set them apart from most other school districts. So I say that because I want to make sure that we really sort of brag a bit and gloat about some of the opportunities that we have here in Greece, because I can compare us to many other districts in Monroe County and beyond. In fact, the state, really, because most districts are smaller, who have not been able to organize to create these opportunities, who may not have the numbers to be able to do such a thing, and certainly, I don't think have the talented staff to be able to really sort of get this organized and in place. So I want to give credit, since Corey has been here, it's been a short time, he's done a phenomenal job of organizing us, of getting us planned and ready, and I hope the presentation tonight really helps to really illustrate the great opportunities that our students have. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Kathy. You just took a lot of the things I was going to say.
Well, there you go.
I grew up in Naples. For those of you who know Naples, it's a real small district. Certainly, these are things that we can't offer in Naples, and that's one of the, there's always pros and cons to being a large district, right? And one of the things I'm always proud of being in Greece is we try to hold Greece, and we try to keep these things internal, and the opportunities that we can provide for our students, as Kathy just said, not everybody can do. And Corey, although he's only been in this position for 9 months, he's really reinvigorated this because there was a lot of challenges coming out of the last few years with COVID, and he's brought a lot of fresh air and life into the program. So I'm going to let him share a few of those updates.
Great, thank you. All right, well, thank you very much. Good evening, members of the school board and Leadership Council. My name is Corey Skinner, for those of you who do not know me, and I'm serving as Director of School to Career Pathways, and I've been doing so since March. There's been a lot going on within the CTE department over the last 6 months, and I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about some of the key updates that have occurred over those last 9 months. Okay, keyboard. There we go. Thanks. So I know some of you have familiarity with the pathway programs, but I'd like to take a few minutes to discuss some of the key elements associated with them. I'm going to start with the key question of what are career pathways? Essentially, pathways provide concentrated exposure to a specific career area. There are usually 3 units or classes within a pathway. They provide an opportunity for rigorous, authentic career experiences. They allow you to incorporate design-based thinking into instruction, and they also connect you to the community employers and post-secondary institutions that are within your community. Career pathways typically contain the attributes you see on this slide, which is presented up there. During this presentation, I'm going to focus heavily on NYSED approved, that's the New York State Education Department approved pathways, and explain more about each element. For now, it's important to know that when it comes to NYSED approved pathways, they always contain all of the elements that are on the screen, which I'm going to discuss in more detail. So first, I want to point out that we're going to be talking about, again, about the NYSED approved pathways on the left. However, we also have some that are not NYSED approved. But again, for this presentation, the real interesting stuff has occurred on the NYSED side of things. Okay, before we get started, though, one thing I really wanted to emphasize, and not everybody's aware, is that before, I think it's key that we emphasize that CTE has benefits other than for simply preparing kids for a particular career. According to the Bridging the Skills Gap report published by the U.S. Department of Education in 2019, CTE courses help students graduate at a higher rate than their non-CTE peers. They actually increase the likelihood that a student will attend college in 8 years, and they can lead to a higher median salary. So taking CTE courses is valuable for everybody, and it's not just for the students who aren't going off to university. In fact, it's exactly the opposite. Now I'm going to start discussing the key components that are associated with pathways. And again, we're going to be focusing on the NYSED approved pathways. All NYSED approved pathways contain some form of industry exam. Industry exams provide us with a true compass as to what skills employers are looking for, and they therefore help us with curriculum writing. When we design these courses, we design them to meet specific industry requirements. In addition, it starts our students off with an edge when applying for employment. If you have this particular skill, that lets the employers know that you actually have tangible skills that will help them in their workforce. As I mentioned, we have 2 new pathways starting next year. At the end of the culinary pathway, students complete the Culinary Management Exam 347, and at the end of the engineering pathway, students complete the Engineering Technologies Exam 645. The actual exam objectives and standards are over 12 pages each. However, Here is a simple list of the standards they address. You can see that with the exception of safety, they are very specific to the particular career cluster. If you go into culinary management, you're going to know 7 knife techniques, how to keep every particular kind of food, how to prepare every particular kind of food, how to serve them safely. You'll have multiple certifications in that area. Whereas if you're in engineering technology, you'll have that those design skills that you need to be successful in a drafting environment. Another key component, oops, I apologize, hold on. Another key component of pathways is the formation of advisory boards. All NYSED pathways are created through a working relationship between an internal self-study group and an external advisory board. They are involved from the inception of the pathway, and they continue to provide guidance throughout the design. They are true experts in the field. These advisory board members are critical because they really do tell us where we need to go. And so we're very, very lucky to have those advisory board members supporting the work that we're doing. Above, these are the individuals who help to shape our pre-engineering pathway, and you'll see that there are secondary school members there. There are post-secondary professors, and you'll also see a whole bunch of organizations and industries that sit on our board and give us advice at all levels. Another key component of a NYSED-approved pathway is a work-based learning experience. Now, one of the things that we sort of did coming into this is we created a phase 1 internal work-based learning experience for kids and an external phase 2. I'm going to start with the internal. So internal work-based environment, all students require a minimum of 54 hours of work-based learning to complete a pathway. New guidance issued by the New York State Education Department this year states that career fair visits and job shadowing can account for up to 20 of those hours. So we're spending time teaching kids about the career that they want to go into and providing valuable feedback to them and helping them do some research as well. For the rest of the 34 hours, you need to produce a product or service for stakeholders. In this example, you'll see that Grease Gadgets for the engineering pathway allows kids to take on requests from their school, think about the problem, design solutions, print out those solutions, build those solutions, and deliver them to their school. So we're very excited. It's like teaching kids how to take accountability for the work that they need to do. Now, this is a new thing that we're working on, which is what we call our external phase 2 work-based learning. So as I mentioned, students require a minimum of 54 hours. However, with this external work-based learning, we're getting the kids out there. We're getting them to co-op, job shadowing, internships. This is an area that was decimated by the COVID. We're basically starting from scratch. But fortunately, we have a number of excellent partners, including Constellation Brands, Optimax, and the Finger Lakes Youth Apprenticeship Program. Oh, apologize. Skip ahead one. The Finger Lakes Youth Apprenticeship Program that are going to help us place our students out there in the field. NYSED closely regulates this area and requires teachers to have their work-based learning certification. Approximately 100 students can be supported by each work-based learning coordinator. The work-based learning coordinator needs to visit the site and also work with the students. It is possible, depending on the program, to earn high school credit for work-based learning that exceeds 150 hours. I'm going to talk about the Business Advisory Board shortly, but one of our key elements of our new Business Advisory Board that's forming is we're going to really think about this work-based learning component. We've got to get kids out there in the field, especially when we know we have real partners that are ready to work with them. The next part I want to mention is employability profiles. Now, if I were to print you out an employability profile, it's about 5 pages long. It's completely unique to those students, and I think it's probably one of the best things about the pathway. Kids start them early with they sort of start generating this employability profile at the very beginning of the pathway, and it's basically a it's a mix of general work-related skills that you'll see on the left and technical skills specific to each pathway. Students are rated by the lead teachers in each class, and again, it follows them as they go through their experience. This page highlights these skills this page highlights the skills that are primarily taught in the culinary pathway. You'll see on the left-hand side the general work skills that are critical to kids going into the workforce, and on the right, that tells the employers what valuable skills they possess. If the student has documentation of successful completion of pathway courses, a passing grade on their industry exam, a complete employability profile, which again is 5 pages, a finished career survey, and adequate work-based learning, they will receive a CT endorsement on their diploma, and that means something. That means you have a student that knows how to conduct themselves in the workforce and that has real tangible skills that are valuable to your business. So now, because I want to be cognizant of time, I just want to highlight a few of the courses and bring you an update about where this is going and sort of what changes we expect to see on the NYSED side of things. So in regards to the Business Specialist Pathway, the Business Specialist Pathway is one of our first programs to be offered at all 4 schools. It is up for reapproval in June, and our Business Advisory Board is in the process of forming. One of the key elements here as we redesign it is we're going to be taking a look at what employers are telling us, modifying the curriculum to match, and then we're going to be doing, again, much better with the work-based learning component associated. We do have a history of co-op in business. We're going to improve on that piece and make sure that kids have a little bit more choice through the Finger Lakes Youth Apprenticeship Program. Culinary arts. This is actually what I'm very excited about. Our new culinary arts pathway will be based at Arcadia and Olympia due to the large number of culinary 1 and 2 students. It is a perfect example of bringing in a true industry professional. In this case, we could not offer dual enrollment credit in the past because you need someone with at least 7 years of culinary experience. Thanks to Jason Carlson, our lead teacher for the culinary program, we can now do that. He has a history of opening up restaurants all across the Rochester region. He's also a leader in the farm-to-table movement. So very, very excited. You won't find a better expert to lead our kids in this work. The program is closely aligned with the MCC Hospitality and Culinary Program, and it also contains key elements from the nationally aligned ProStart curriculum. Our kids will have nationally recognized skills that if they all of a sudden do leave home, which we hope they don't, and go off to Texas, if they say they have ProStart certification, they're going to know they can work and operate in a restaurant. The Early Childhood Education Program is one of our great programs that's been running for almost 4 years. Our Early Childhood Education Program is up for reevaluation 23-24, so an advisory board will be reformed next year. I know there's a couple people that have expressed interest. We're going to get there, I promise. It provides student teaching experience at both the secondary and primary level. We are partnered with MCC, offering dual enrollment credit. However, we have recently begun to work with Nazareth as well, and I'm very, very excited about building that partnership. So the goal is to bring it's not just one partnership. We try to form multiple partnerships to provide as much value as possible for our students. The other one that was just approved as of a couple weeks ago is our pre-engineering program, which I am incredibly excited about. I said culinary I'm excited about. This is my favorite. Our pre-engineering program has been approved this month. My predecessor, Kathy Richardson, did a great job of building a robust dual enrollment program in Greece, which is, when I say dual enrollment, it means college credit while taking a high school course. In consultation with our advisory board, which I showed you the members earlier, we built upon this structure and formed new connections with MCC professors, including Professor Joel Eisel, Alexis Vogt, and Bill Hunt. The pathway provides us with direct access to employers in engineering technologies, optics, and machining. We are talking to companies like Corning, L3Harris, Optimax. They are dying to have MCC skilled students coming out of their program, and MCC is dying to have our talented, skilled kids to go into theirs. So we're very, very excited. What I'm most excited about this course, you'll see the black lettering on the left-hand side. That means every single one of those courses is a dual enrollment course. The kids can come away with a large amount of college credit right from the very beginning, and even best of all, it's dispersed among machining, engineering, and optics. This really will prepare kids with those next-generation technology skills they need. What's also nice, too, is that for the first time, this pre-engineering program will be offered at all 4 schools, which allows us some redundancy, too. If all of a sudden our numbers are a little light in one building, it means that we could possibly bus kids to continue their pathway without having to collapse the class. And then this one was brought up. I'm not going to talk long about it because the students did a way better job than I did from Odyssey.
I like this one.
Responding to emergencies. Yeah. The only thing I was going to say is it is truly a jewel. One of the things that was neat is that, and I know Dr. Colicchio had a really strong hand in this, and a lot of credit goes to her, and Chris Morose, who has continued the pathway over the last couple of years. And it has grown into something where kids can get multiple, I try to get at least one certification per pathway. They have multiple certifications. New York State Basic Exterior Fire, CPR, AED, Narcan, EpiPen, EMT certification. Kids can leave high school and start working for Monroe Ambulance as soon as they leave. And they're continuing to make it even better, where they're going to be providing, kids will be able to enter into the fire profession, the EMT fire profession, much quicker than they would normally be able to on their own. So very exciting. It's only good things coming, so just keep, we're going to keep improving it, but really good news. I'm almost done here, I promise. The CTE Family and Fair, I also want to thank those of you who were able to attend our CTE Fair and Family Information Night. One of the key things is to improve information. Our goal is to make sure that families know what all their options are. That's my personal goal walking into this role. Some kids may go off to take AP courses and want to go off to a 4-year, 6-year, or 8-year college experience. Some families may choose to go into industry and then get their college paid for. Some may just choose to go into industry. I want the parents to know if they're going to make a choice, they have all the possible information they need to make that choice properly. So that was what this event was about on November 17th. We had over 24 organizations we were able to have parents there. They were able to talk to the pathway teachers. The pathway teachers were able to direct them to the programs at MCC or the other colleges that directly fed or that directly were associated with those pathways. And then we had industry that were saying, well, you know, if your kid comes over to here, we'll be able to provide them a job as soon as they start at MCC. We'll be able to give you, we'll be able to pay for your degree. And on top of that, you'll start a starting wage of $30,000. Parents don't know that those opportunities are out there. So we're going to continue this every year. I highly recommend that if you can stop by. It's wonderful. And so it was a really great experience, and I want to thank everybody for that opportunity. And then the last slide here is I just want to talk a little bit about where we're going this year. There's still a lot of work to be done. I'm very excited about this work. One of the key things is we have a program called Maya Learning, and this Maya Learning program is sort of going to revolutionize how we get information to families and kids. I could probably do another presentation about it because there's so much to it, but it's going to be able to really make sure kids are informed from grade 6 to 12 and beyond. So it's going to build a whole alumni program where we may be able to still offer opportunities to our kids in Greece even after they've left us. So I'm very excited, but we'll talk about that another day. We're exploring, New York State just approved computer science as a career cluster. In the past, we could not make a NYSE computer science program. Now we can, so we're starting those talks. We already have professors from MCC who are working with us, and we have a professor at RIT who in game design who does revolutionary work, writes a lot of grants. He's also partnering with us as well. So we're very excited. That's our next step to look into. And then, as I mentioned before, we're going to be building out our true work-based learning. We've got to get kids out there because they have to see what the environment's like so they can make informed decisions. All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Hopefully I made that 10-minute mark. But if you have any questions, I would love to answer them. And I'm always available to anybody on the board or in our community. If you have any questions, I would love to connect your kids with opportunities or connect you with stakeholders that can also provide you with support.
Vice President Moore.
I have to say thank you. As a former work-based learning coordinator, we got a little mushy for a while here, and I'm thrilled in the direction you're going. So keep up the good work.
And thank you for joining my board, for the business board, because I need your advice on that, so thank you.
Any other board member comments?
Thank you, Mark.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The board's going to recess for 10 minutes. I'd like to welcome everybody back from our brief recess. Moving on to item 4.02. Capital Projects Update, Superintendent Groutman.
So I'm going to invite Mr. Bianchi to come on up to give us an update in terms of our capital project work. This presentation was incredibly exciting for me, which he sort of shrugs when I say that, but to have been a part of the planning very early on when we actually envisioned this and then put it up for vote, and to actually see the progress all along and how much of it is completed is really exciting. And I say that, Lou, knowing that the last, particularly 6 months to a year, has been extremely trying in the world of capital projects. So we're looking forward to having you and Romeo give us an update. So thank you.
Switch on and off. Good evening, everyone. As Superintendent Groutman mentioned, we are going to share this presentation and do some different slides together. So the presentation.
I'm sorry, Romeo, I didn't properly introduce you. So I went right to Lou and not you. I apologize.
The presentation is very similar to what we did for the board back in May of '22. It's a brief update on the current outstanding projects that we have at this time, including what's outstanding for Reimagine Greece. There's a brief review of the change order process and an update on the number of change orders and the volume and extent of the dollars for change orders, as well as where we are budget and actual to date for Reimagine Greece. So current projects outstanding, we still have a capital outlay project for the Early Learning Center, digital sign, about $100,000. We'll talk about in a few minutes. We have classroom lock set upgrades. We started that a little while ago, and there's still some work to be done with that. There's a small amount of Smart Schools Bond Act, the enhanced security project that needs to be finished. There's really a delay in materials. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Reimagine Greece in the different phases. Rather than, again, rehashing and revisiting R1, we just marked it as completed. Those were all the security vestibules. R2 were the athletic field upgrades with the turf and the lights and the other amenities. That was completed. Both of those items were around 2020. R3 was done in 2021, pretty much completed. Transportation and Support Services Facility, completed. We have R4, which was work being done this summer. Still a couple items outstanding there. You can see those were jobs and projects at Athena, Odyssey, Buckman Heights, Long Ridge, and the ELC. The Odyssey entrance is still being worked on. For next summer, we have R5 to be done, which is Arcadia, Craig Hill, and Lakeshore. We have a new R5A, which is the Patty Hill Gymnasium addition that will be going up starting in the spring of '23. We're thinking it would be completed in the fall of '24. And then R6 is the final work for Reimagine Greece to be done in 2024, and that primarily will be Athena and English Village. That's still yet to be designed. The capital outlay project, as I mentioned, it's a digital sign for the Early Learning Center. It's ready for bidding. We're anticipating it will be done in the spring of '23. And we did this as a minor capital project so that we would get aid within 1 year of finishing the project rather than some of it, like we do with other projects, waiting over 15 or 20 years. By doing it in this manner, when we finish it in '23, we should see state aid on that in '24, '25. I'll have Lou talk about the lock set projects.
So I was thinking in lieu of Superintendent Groutman's comment about some of the difficulties we've been through. Brandon, was he the gentleman that spoke earlier?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think. I'm pretty low-keyed. So if I'm Brandon, I'm behind schedule. I can't get parts, can't get contractors, and I'm loving it. I don't know.
That was pretty good, Lou. I'm impressed.
How's that?
Keep it going. I like it.
Pretty exciting.
I'm
The
done.
new Lou.
I'm done. Okay. All right. Class classroom lock set project. So, excuse me. So this was done in two phases. The first phase, our folks did. I was told not to thank Chris Luther for this work, but to thank Kurt Keller. So I did that the last time. So we installed with our in-house crews about 400 or 500 lock sets on the classrooms, which is completed, which now allows lockdowns to occur without teachers having to go in the corridors. Second phase of that was a completion of lock sets, but it had more building trades involved and electrical work, and this is going to be able to afford us to lock down the large group instruction areas, cafeterias, gyms, auditoriums, and we awarded that contract. The material is in the process of being ordered. Don't have any delivery dates, so our completion date will be subject to when we can get the materials, but we're hoping to get underway in the next 3 or 4 weeks and get that work done. It's going to be done on second shift in all of the schools, and hope to be done sometime this spring. At the direction of Steve Chatterton, we're going to start with the high schools, get the 4 high schools done, and then move on to the elementaries. Okay. You're back. You're up. That's me? Okay. All right, so the enhanced security project, so that project is primarily complete. I think it's been very successful. It's 95% complete. We're waiting on some blue notification buttons that have been on ordered for 13 months now. So once we get those in, we'll finish that off. But the buildings are all able to be fully locked down, and I think it's been quite a success. And again, once we get the balance of the materials in, we'll finish that portion of the project. All right. So just a quick update on some of these phases. Phase 4 is what we're currently working on. So if you happen to go into Odyssey occasionally, you'll see what's happening there, but we're making some decent headway. We're very close to opening the library. Seats are going in the auditorium today. The locker rooms are moving along. Elementary schools are finished, so we're quite a bit behind schedule, but making some headway, and over the next 3 or 4 weeks, we should be nearing completion. There are still some items that are, for example, the lights in the auditorium, I can't get them till March. There are just things that are way extended delivery dates. So there are parts and pieces that aren't going to be complete, but we're moving along. Starting to make some progress on the addition on the side of Odyssey. So over the next several weeks, you should see a lot more happening there. So that's R4. R5 will be construction going on over summer of 2023. That work will include several schools with the typical work that we do. One of the questions that you probably are going to have is, how do we know we're not going to have a repeat next summer of what happened this summer? And I don't. On the positive side, we bid R4 and R5 together, so most of the materials for R5 have already been ordered. In fact, the big problem we had at Odyssey was getting toilet fixtures. We have all of the toilet fixtures that are going in 4 schools next summer. That being said, we don't know what the labor market is going to be like. Just can't get a feel for it, talking with the unions. And we're in the process now of looking at some options on either scaling some things back, staggered starts, looking at doing things on second shift, starting some work over some of the longer breaks. So we're in the process of trying to put a plan together so we don't have a replay of what happened this summer. Can I tell you that that's going to be a foolproof plan? I can't do that. But I've got LaChase, CPL Architects, and my staff and Kurt's staff working on trying to see if we can improve over last year. There's just too many unknowns at this point. R5A, which is the Patty Hill Gym, this was the larger version that we went with, as well as some work at Arcadia is currently out for bids. The bids open a week from today, and we hope to award those bids in the January board meeting. And the big portion of that is the Patty Hill Gym. It's a brand-new structure. And again, the intent is to get going on that as soon as the weather breaks in the spring. But it's about a 12 to 15-month process, again, assuming we can get materials in a timely fashion. And then R6 would be the last phase of Reimagine Greece. And we finally have I think Romeo will touch on this, we've finally got a bit of a better handle as to what the balance of the funds we have available. So we're in the process of developing those projects now, prioritizing them. I have a meeting next week with the architect and CM to get that rolling. Okay?
Change orders.
Ooh, still here. All right. So real briefly, this change order process, there's the two new board members. I don't think you've heard this, and there are often questions as to how does this whole process work. It's a bit hard to understand and sometimes doesn't make sense. But at any rate, 4 steps. An issue is raised, a change is proposed, the change is agreed upon, and then the contract is amended. I'll tell you how that works. An issue is raised when construction is going on, a contractor finds a problem that's not covered in the construction documents. It requires direction be given to the contractors. They have to work up a cost. The cost has to be reviewed by a bunch of parties, and then we process the change order. And just to keep this brief, how the process works is all change orders come to me. Every Monday morning, my staff sits down and reviews every single change order that we receive, and it's hundreds and hundreds of them. We look at every single one, every item, determine what the cause is, whose fault it is. More often than not, we find errors in math. The contractors forgot to give us credit back on something. So we scrutinize these to the nth degree. And there's a large percentage of them that go back and get reduced before I sign off on them. Then they're processed, and we do an amendment to the contract, and the work proceeds. So where the questionable item comes in is when there's an error that the architect makes, something on the drawings that was supposed to be there that wasn't there. So the situation with that is the industry standard or thinking or logic is if that information had been on the drawings, you would have paid for it anyway. So we're obligated to pay for the change order. My gripe with that whole thing is you don't get the same number that you do on a change order as you do in a bid. So that's where negotiating skills come into place. And I start to Brandonize things pretty significantly when that comes up. So we keep everybody honest. And then one last item. So occasionally things get built, and then we find out there's a mistake. That's a different story. When that occurs and something has to be torn out and rebuilt, then the architect has to pay for that change. We only pay for something one time. So we do this on every project. In fact, recently Romeo and I had a conversation with a consultant on some work that was done recently, and we made a significant adjustment on their final payment to cover errors that were made. And when you see these $10,000 change orders that come to you, I'll put a note on the bottom that say we're negotiating with the architect. So we followed through on a recent project with that, just to let you know that that, in fact, does occur. Okay, so in a nutshell, that's the change order process, and it's been the same for years and years. Okay, let's see. Change orders. Yeah, just real briefly, you can look at the numbers here. What I'll point to is that column that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over that says change orders percent of budget. We're down to 3.76. We were at 4.06 back on 5/3/22 when we last met with you. So that number is coming down. Again, we like to see that at 3%. We typically budget 5% just to cover ourselves. So it's a bit higher than I'd like to see, but, you know, based on what's going on with the whole construction industry in general, I don't have much of a problem with that. So again, I think we're in pretty good shape there. Okay, Romeo.
Okay, and the other thing I wanted to mention here on this slide is change orders over 10,000 that have come to the board. There's been over about 90 of them that you have seen out of a total of 745. So again, as Lou mentioned before, anything over $10,000 a credit or an expense comes to the board for approval. And the other thing I will mention is each one of these change orders, the Facility Operation Department maintains a detailed log on what that change order is for, whether it's a design, an error, a value engineering, or whatever the reason is behind it, all those details are maintained. So now just looking at some quick budget numbers on where we are with the Transportation and Support Services Facility. Again, it's 100% complete. The budget was construction budget with contingencies. Funds was about $26 million. We spent about $25.4 million. So at this point, we have a balance, a construction of balance of about $500,000 against budget on that facility at this time, which equals about 2% of the budget for it. As we look at our 1 through our 6, again, these are the budgets with contingency built in. The only estimate at this point is R6 at $7,863,000. That number was about $3.8 or $4 million when we did this back in May, and I'll show you where the difference came from on that. But R1, R2, R3, and primarily R1, R2, and R3 are completed. Those are final numbers, so you can see a little bit of a balance left over in each of those phases. R4 has a $4.4 million balance, but as Lou mentioned, there's work still continuing to go on, so that balance is likely to come down as expenses still come in over the next several months to finish off R4. R5, the $8.5 million, is the bid amount. We haven't done anything here in terms of applying expenditures yet. And then R6, again, is estimated at about $8 million, when in the past it was about $4 million. Taking a look at the summary, again, transportation, you can see the numbers there, the budget and the actual. R1 through R6 totals about $63.3 million. We got about $41.3 million spent. We have about a $22 million balance on R1 through R6, and primarily R5. Part of R4, R5, and R6 have not yet been completed. But what you'll see under capitalized interest is a notation. Originally, what was budgeted there was $5.3 million. That's usually done by our external financial consultants. It's to help with some of the financing and interest costs within the project. They are very conservative. Was originally budgeted at $5.3 million. We meet with them 2 or 3 times a year, well, actually 3 or 4 times a year. We've recently settled on we don't need the $5.3 million that was originally budgeted, so we took $4 million out of the capitalized interest and moved it to R6. And that's why R6 went from $4 million to about $8 million, an estimate right now. And actually, as far as the capitalized interest, we're not even sure yet. We're going to need the $1.3 million, but we need to keep it there on hold for a little while longer, but some of those funds may be able to be transferred to R6 as well. The DAS rates the way they're going now, we probably are going to go back to DASNY and fund the bonds that way. So we will likely use more of the $1.2 million that's left over, but there could be a small balance there. And then incidentals, we budgeted at 18%, we're at about $11.4 million in expenses, leaves us about $4.8 million at this point. So you can see we've got a balance of about $29 million with Reimagine Greece. So overall, I think although there's been challenges, there's been struggles, there's been COVID-related incidences, overall the project is going good. We are well within budget. We have the room in the budget and the whole project to be able to manage it, to ensure and make certain that we don't go over the $107.8 million. We should be able to do that. We'll know better in the spring when we meet with the consultants again. We wrap up the actuals on our 4, start to really figure out our 5, and then finalize our 6. And we will probably come back in the spring with a scope on our 6 and give you a better number on that in the spring. And then this is a new slide we added because it gets a little bit more complicated. So I just wanted to speak to this. So what we're currently doing is we have federal stimulus monies available, ARP and CRRSA. And although we're well on our way of spending both of those funds, in the CRRSA world, we've got some capital projects that we came to the board to a few months ago, and asked for 4 projects to be funded out of a portion of the federal stimulus dollars that would have been for the VCT flooring, the fitness rooms, and such. We still have a balance there. And in ARP, we've still got monies to spend over the next year and a half there, but we believe we could have some balance money there. And what had transpired over the last 6 to 12 months is you can now fund capital projects, including existing projects, with federal dollars. So what we are spending a lot of time looking at and trying to figure out is what in R5 and R6 under Reimagine Greece would fit the criteria for CRRSA or ARP that is COVID-related, move that work from Reimagine Greece, fund it with federal stimulus dollars, which will then, excuse me, free up more funds in Reimagine Greece to apply towards our 6. Excuse me. We're running into a little bit of a jam because of some of the issues that Lou brought up earlier with CRRSA. The projects have to be done by October of '23. And given all the lead times and the delays in materials, we're not certain we can use it. But what we may do is fund some of the Reimagine Greece, R5 and R6 out of ARP, and then better utilize CRRSA for some other items that we have out there. So we've got 4 or 5 big pots to strategically look at, and we're trying to figure out the best way to do it to get the best bang for our buck and get as much capital work done as we could out of the 3 funding sources. We'll come back to the board in the spring in the '23 to do another update, and at that point we should have a better update of what we're doing with the stimulus dollars for capital plans as well as for R6.
Questions? Mr. Maloney?
Back when we were creating this, the bond, I had asked for some tennis court work being done at Olympia. Was there any money left, or can you do anything with the tennis courts over at Olympia? Or is that part of a new project?
It's not in the scope of the authorization
Okay.
that was approved when we did Reimagine Greece. So in Reimagine Greece, we've got the broad categorization, but behind all that, we actually list out the types of projects at each school. Tennis courts, unfortunately, at the time that we put the scope together, was not part of the scope. So to put that in could raise objections from residents who could then challenge the work being funded out of that project. But we've had conversations around it. And it's on the board definitely for scope in the next capital project.
Thank you.
Dr. Trawick.
So I was just wondering, with the money that's left over that.
Microphone.
With the money that we're saving, can that money be used toward other things? Or is it very project specific? So like, you talked about, $500,000 savings on the transportation facility. Does that 500,000 only apply, like you can only do work in the transportation facility, or can you move it to another part of Reimagine Greece?
You can move it, but it's really not a $500,000. It's a $500,000 saving to that phase. But you look at R6, and I should have noted this on the slide when it was up. R6 is at about $8 million budget. The original scope of R6 is around 12 or 13 million. We've already got to cut out $4 to $5 million of scope in R6 in order to fit the 107. So if there were funds, as long as it met the threshold of the authorization and was in the scope of the work, which we try to leave somewhat general, then we could. However, when you add new items like that, they still then have to be designed, they have to go to SED, they need to be approved, they need to be bid, which takes up time, effort, and money. So it's not as simple as just going ahead and do the work without getting the proper structural designs, approvals, and such. Does that help you?
Yes, thank you.
So a question on R4. I think the last time we chatted, right, we thought that would finish up sometime in Q4 here, right? And it feels like we're 90 days-ish behind for various reasons. That might not be exact quotes, but it feels like in that range. My real question is not so much about the delay of the project, but just the impact to the kids at Odyssey in particular, right? At the time, I think we thought the kids would largely be outside and kind of be able to do pep rallies and stuff out there and everything be cool. Now, we still don't have an auditorium, concerts are starting to go, you got musicals starting to prep and practice. And library's still not available yet, hopefully in the next month or so. How are we, I guess, connecting those kids so that they're not disadvantaged and connecting them to resources at the other schools, Performing Arts Center, et cetera, so that they can have as normal of an experience as possible, because of this delay?
Can you touch the library and then
Yeah.
maybe the
Yeah.
auditorium?
So we've been having regular meetings since August with folks at Odyssey as well as the 3 elementaries, indicating that we were having issues getting spaces completed. The users of those spaces, for example, I had a meeting with the librarian at Odyssey today. They've been kept abreast weekly over the last 3 months, just where we are, what the problems are, what the issues are. And there's family consumer science rooms, art rooms, library, phys ed folks, auditorium folks, 5 groups. We've been in contact with those folks on a regular basis, letting them know. Now, just so we're on the same page, the completion date of the auditorium was always the end of October. So we're not that far off there. The main entrance was the end of October, 1st of November. So several of these dates, as well as the boys and girls locker rooms, they were into October. So we're not taking from August to where we are now, but in some cases October. But in every case, we've kept all of the user groups abreast of what's going on. I've had a few complaints here and there that I'd like to see some things, but for the most part, everyone has been understanding. From day one, Corey at Odyssey has kept his folks abreast of what's going on. They've made alternative plans, how the librarian's working, where they're practicing music. So we've been keeping tabs on that all along, and I honestly haven't had a complaint from anyone. Is it going as smoothly as it should? No. But I think the folks at Odyssey have done a great job in adapting and making alternative plans to do what they need to do. So we're...
What's the estimated turnover date maybe for the library?
So the library, they are putting books in bookshelves today. The furniture, again, the furniture that has to go in there so they can use it. I just got the notice yesterday that it was in, but they couldn't install it until December 28th. Well, I made a call, and it's being installed next Tuesday now. We're probably about a week away. The end of next week, we should be completed with the library. About 75% of it. There's one section of that we had some problems, the makerspace section, that the construction is just getting underway again after some serious design issues and construction issues. Probably the end of next week, and Emily Rounding is looking at starting a week from this coming Monday in the library.
Dennis, it's hard for me to speak to what they've been able to do in the interim with the library. I'm not certain downstairs, but for the auditorium, I know we've been in, Dr. Colicchio and us have been in contact because they were talking about would they have to move the musicals to another location. So those conversations have happened. It looks like we're probably going to maintain them here at Odyssey, providing anything crazy happens, I think, at this point. They need to know, I believe, by the end of January, whether they can utilize the auditorium here, and I think at this point, we believe it will be done by that point.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a construction meeting at 4 o'clock this afternoon just to discuss the auditorium. Now, I was over there today. The seats are going in today. The carpet is going in next week. The stage floor is about 95% complete. We had new lights going in the auditorium. I'm not going to see lights until April. We had doors that are going in this space. They were ordered on May 1st. They came in today. So that's kind of what we've been dealing with. So we're looking at probably another 3 or 4 weeks max, and we'll be in the auditorium.
Yeah. And just to be clear, I'm not, I guess, questioning our execution in terms of capital. I get the supply chain challenges and getting materials in, and I know you guys are working all hours, all shifts. We stumbled over half the workers last night as we were leaving audit committee, right? So I really do appreciate all that effort, right? My point was really more, we're shifting a season here, and it's going to get colder, and we can't be outside anymore, right? And I'm just checking to make sure the kids have the right space.
Yeah, the exterior bathrooms are gone.
No,
So nobody's going outside anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like I said, I do want to recognize all that work.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, as we enter this new season and it gets cold, right? As Romeo mentioned, right, making sure we have access to the auditorium.
Yes.
Make sure those kids can be engaged and do their normal musical practice, et cetera. It sounds we're right on the edge there, so appreciate that. Thank you.
Other questions? Dr. Haywick?
Okay, so, as we're, looking at the statement of work for R5, R6, is there a plan for like the future, right? So what I mean by that is, I know that, what we're seeing is like a drop in enrollment in our numbers, but we are also seeing a lot of our programs expanding, like community schools and, some of these other things that we're needing. And I'm just wondering, like, as part of that work, are we looking at creating facilities or additional space for those expanding programs? Like even, as the gentleman talked about, a health services kind of program or more space for our community providers and partnerships, which we've talked about a lot of here. So I just wonder, has that been factored into the work so far, or is that part of like a R7, R8? And with that, how often can the community expect that we're going to be doing capital projects? Because I know there was a long time we weren't doing anything, and now we're doing all this work, and people ask, it seems like we're always working on the schools. So can you kind of speak to what we've done in the past and what we plan to do? Okay.
I'll start with the latter question first. I believe, at least since I've been here and probably since Lou's been here, we've done capital project work every summer for the last 17 or 18 years. So it might go back to the late 90s, but it's been every year. Expansion space and things like that, this Reimagine Greece will end at R6, and then the R reference will no longer be. We will put together a new project to have voters authorize. Now, whether that would be December, 23 or the spring of 24, we have the building condition survey that Lou's team has, and they're going through to determine scope of work for our next capital project. We'll get input from committee members and from the board on ideas for a next scope of work for a new capital project. We have about $10 million in a capital reserve already funded, which will buy us a capital project somewhere between 40 and $45 million, so that there's no additional local share to residents. And all that will start to come together, at least initial proceedings on that, probably in the next 3 or 4 months, 2 or 3 months, to see what do we want. If we want to have a capital project for we will end Reimagine Greece in summer of 24. If we want to have capital work in summer of 25 to continue on and not miss a year, we will probably need to have a capital vote sometime next year, either in the winter or very early spring of 24 for the next $35, $45 million project, which could include necessities in the building that the building condition survey has said need to be replaced, and then any other items that we wish to add to the scope. Does that help?
One quick comment, just to drill down a little bit farther. This Patty Hill Gymnasium that we're building, we have to relocate roadways and access for fire trucks and utilities. There's a thought that we, at some point, may need to add some classrooms on at Patty Hill. Patty Hill is full. So when we developed this gymnasium, where this classroom addition could potentially go, we've set up in this Patty Hill Gymnasium, relocating those utilities now, relocating the roadway, so that if we build this addition, we don't have to touch that stuff again. So we've done that on several things. So as we're doing this project, we're always looking at what's coming up in the future, and we make those provisions ahead of time as much as we're able to.
And this is also on our agenda in March for our retreat as a topic to continue to talk more about.
Any other questions? I just got 2 questions and a comment. With the R6 being approximately at this point about $4 million short of where we were hoping it was going to be, have you guys determined what's going to be cut at this point out of? And I guess as a follow-up to Dr. Trewick's question, so roughly the $4 to $5 million is going to be cut at R6. Would that $4 to $5 million cuts be part of the initial next project in your thought process?
I'll start, and then you can. So there's about $12 or $13 million worth of R6 scope. I believe all of it will get designed, and then we will see 6 or 8 months from now how we might be able to make $8 million go to 10 with the federal stimulus monies. We may not need that other $1.3 million in the capitalized interest, which would make it 11. We may be able to get to 11 or 12 or get the full scope in, depending on how expenses come in. But that's why we're working hard to utilize the federal grants to try to fund some of the stuff that's in there. And actually, there's also another opportunity we might have with some of the bilateral infrastructure bill we learned about today. There's some fun. We're trying to find a way to free up dollars in R6, in Reimagine Greece to get back to the scope that we originally did. If we don't get to it, it could definitely be part of the initial pushes into the next capital project to start with as well. No problem.
Yeah, and on the R6 projects, we're currently in the process of addressing, and we prioritize the projects. So there's a matrix that we follow. Any life safety issues will stay in the project. If there are significant energy conservation issues, they would stay in the project. ADA items that we're still looking at, they would stay in the project. So there are certain things that are in there that, you know, in consultation with our facilities group, we could hold off on those if we needed to. Those would be transferred over to the next project if we're short on funds.
Thanks. And then I just want to thank you for the lock sets. I've been hearing about the lock sets in my home life for 14 years, so I truly appreciate the lock sets getting done. And I know it took a lot of work and effort, so thank you. And it improved student safety and staff safety, so thank you very much for getting that done. Thank you both.
Thank you.
And moving on, Audit Committee update, Chairman Sawicki.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Audit Committee convened last evening on Monday, December 5th, to review several items, namely the items before the board this evening pending approval. The committee attendees included myself, fellow board member Tammy Flores, as well as district administrators and at-large community members. To begin, Tom Zuber of Mango Metzger Bar & Co. reviewed the 21-22 Extracurricular Activity Fund Audit Report, and discussion took place regarding our processes, number of and activity of our clubs, and potential measures to further strengthen our controls in the areas of fundraiser administration and ticket reconciliations. The committee also reviewed the 21-22 single audit report related to the use of federal funds, where the district was deemed a low-risk auditee with no findings. Next, Erica Proctor from the Bonadillo Group reviewed our 22-23 internal risk assessment for the district with the committee, which remains very similar in risk assessment year over year with no high-risk areas noted. Really an excellent report and not a lot of discussion because not a lot has changed, right? The biggest challenge, I'm going off script here, so it's a little dangerous, but the biggest one noted is really the size of our district and the complexity of the number of buildings. Not much we can do about that, right, in terms of, trying to govern that and oversee that. And that was really the biggest change. And again, no high-risk items. So really, for me, a great report. Additionally, the Audit Committee also reviewed standing corrective action plans related to the district's internal controls. The team continues to make good progress on tightening those controls in the transportation area and fixed assets in particular. Further updates and resolutions are expected in Q1 of '23. With all of the above in mind, the Audit Committee recommends acceptance of items 6.01, 6.02, 6.04, and 6.05 on the agenda this evening, which includes the annual extra classroom audit report for 21-22 and related corrective action responses, as well as the 22-23 internal audit risk assessment and 21-22 management letter responses. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Sawicki. With that, moving on, can I so move the acceptance of the annual extra classroom audit report for 21-22? Moved by Dr. Trewick, seconded by Ms. Flores. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That passes 8-0. Moving on to 6.02, can I so move the acceptance of the 21-22 extra classroom audit corrective action responses? Moved by Ms. Farmer, seconded by Mr. Sawicki. Any comments, questions, concerns on those? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That passes 8-0. Can I have somebody move item 6.03, the 22-23 property tax collection status? Moved by Vice President Lawler, seconded by Mrs. Farmer. Any comments, questions, concerns on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? That passes, or any opposed? That passes 8-0. Moving on to the 6.04, acceptance of the 22-23 internal audit risk assessment report. Can I have Sonny move that to the table, please? Moved by Ms. Flores, seconded by Dr. Trewick. Comments, questions, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That passes 8-0. Can I have somebody move the acceptance of the 21-22 management letter responses, please? Moved by Ms. Flores, seconded by Ms. Farmer. Any comments, questions, concerns on that? All those in favor? Any opposed? That passes 8-0. Can I have somebody move the 6.06, the BOCES copier pilot project approval? Moved by Mr. Maloney, seconded by Dr. Trewick. Any comments, questions, concerns on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That passes 8-0. Moving on to 7.01, budget status report. It's written information only. Does anybody have any questions? 7.02 is anticipated bids. Does anybody have any questions? It's written information only. Moving on to the consent agenda. Can I have the consent agenda moved? Moved by Mr. Sawicki, seconded by Ms. Farmer. Any comments, questions, concerns on the consent agenda? I would just like to thank Superintendent Groutman, who made a $500 donation on behalf of the Board of Education to Greece Community Schools. I'd like to thank Tops Friendly Markets for the gift cards for the Greece Central School District Pantry and Community Schools in the amount of $1,000. And I would like to thank the Olympia class of 1970 for a donation by that class for the reunion committee of $1,200. So a total of $2,700 in donations came into the district, and I'd like to thank all of those individuals and the class of 1970 and the Tops Supermarket. With that, all those in favor? Any opposed? That passes 8-0. Moving on to field trip approval, can I have somebody move the field trip approval to the table, please? Moved by Mr. Maloney, second by Ms. Flores. Any comments, questions, concerns on this? The only thing I'm gonna say is it's awesome to see a field trip. I think it's been a while since we've had a music trip, dating to pre-COVID, so I love to see this. And with that, all those in favor? Any opposed? That carries 8-0. Board member comments. Does any board members have any comments this evening? Oh, Dr. Trewick.
Okay, so, first, I wanted to say, let's see, first I wanted to.
Microphone.
Oh, yeah. I heard the microphone. I just wanted to say to all the speakers, I know it takes a lot of courage and bravery to get up to the microphone and, talk about things that, sometimes are uncomfortable for folks to hear. But I just wanted to encourage people, keep bringing, the issues forward. We can't see everything, and I think that at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, which is for our students in our district to be better. So I just want to say thank you to all the speakers. And on top of that, I wanted to say, encourage people. Our holiday concerts are coming up. Our children are singing, they're playing instruments, they're dancing, they're doing everything. Now it's going to seem like I'm trying to be like Brandon, but this is me. This is not Brandon.
Yeah, you're low on the Brandon scale.
So I know, for example, Olympia, tomorrow they have a band concert. So if you want a little holiday cheer and a little holiday spirit, go and see our kids over the next couple of weeks. Next week, I know the jazz band is doing some stuff, and all the schools, the kids are performing. They're singing, they're dancing, they're doing all kinds of stuff, and we need joy, right? Here, we embrace joy. So I wanted to encourage folks to support our kids. And then also wanted to give a shout out to Pine Brook. They invited me to their Guardians of Equity meeting, and it was a great meeting. Got to hear about all the great work that they're doing. I know it's not just unique to Pine Brook. A lot of our schools, all of our schools are doing great work. Do we have, work that needs to be done in some areas? Absolutely. But I think it's also good to give folks their flowers and celebrate the good stuff as well, but not be afraid to hear the things that need improvement either. So with that, I wish everybody a happy holiday, and thank you, President, for letting me speak.
Very good. Mr. Maloney.
Just to give you a little update on electric buses, Dr. Trewick and I attended a labor relations meeting, and the Gates Chili was or Gates, I should say, was the maker of the presentation on electric buses. And just to let you all know, it's very expensive, and we have a long, long way to go.
Thank you, Mr. Maloney. Mr. Swicky.
I would just like to say the Christmas tree gala, or the tree gala over at Arcadia Middle, great event, right? Got a chance to stop by last night, check out all the trees. I, of course, loved our Board of Education one. Thank you, Ms. Malore, for the decoration, and Tammy, I think you might have helped too. Yes, so thank you both. Clearly the best tree in show, but there were other contenders. I like the Buffalo Bills one, the cupcake one. In addition to all the trees there, great family night too, events in a bunch of the different areas there. We also saw the step team perform, which was really cool, along with some hot cocoa and some donuts. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out, there's 2 nights left. Mr. Jones told us all about it, so make sure you get there, 48 hours to go, and vote for the Board of Education tree. That's my public service announcement. As my colleague, Dr. Trewick, said, I also wish everyone a happy holiday, Merry Christmas. It's great to work with everybody here, and I look forward to what is in store for the new year. So, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bonagorio.
Thank you. I want to echo Dr. Trewick's encouragement of our speakers to come out and speak. I know, yes, it is hard, and it does take courage to do that. So I also thank you all who were speaking today. There were a couple of speakers today who touched on things that have been very, very much on my heart and mind. As our board members know, code of conduct issues have been a big concern of mine. Mr. Thayer's story tonight, very emotional, was tough to hear. I'm sorry to say that I've heard other stories like that. And we do have a lot of good things going on in the district. Don't want to downplay any of that. I've got some flowers to share too tonight, by the way. But those are stories, they can easily get lost in data. And there are real people behind them. And we can't not pay attention to them. I'm going to continue to make sure if we don't have residents coming forward to share stories, I'm hearing them behind the scenes, and I'm going to share them. I do want to point out, much like what we heard tonight, there are lots of kids who feel, I can't say anything because I've heard this one, I have to go to a restorative circle, and then the bullying gets worse. I've heard from teachers that they're discouraged, not by administration, but they're discouraged maybe from peers from writing referrals because we need to reduce our referral rates. And a common refrain from teachers is that, quote, a major issue with retention of staff has to do with student behavior, especially for students with multiple referrals for class disruption. And they say, we just want to be able to teach. So this goes to creating a safe and welcoming environment for our kids and our teachers to learn and teach in. We need to reemphasize that effort. I'm confident that we will. The issue of proficiency, reading proficiency, came up tonight, and Superintendent Groutman knows that that's been on my mind. I've reached out to her about that. The city's announcement recently, 8% proficiency, is really alarming, and then, got me looking into it. State Education Department says we're at about 30, a little over 30%. I want to thank, first of all, I want to thank Superintendent Groutman for her passionate statement tonight, that that's not okay. And I know that's an issue that goes across the country, but we can't be okay with it. We need to continue to seek ways to make that better. Because again, they're real life, our kids that are being affected by it. And it cuts across all demographics. And I want to particularly thank Dr. Payne and Dr. Pettifer for carving out time out of their busy work days to help me get a better grounding on how we're approaching that. So thank you both. But this is a critical issue. It really does go to our kids' life success. I think there were some flowers in there because we've got people doing hard work and are interested to make it better. Some other flowers, sorry for borrowing your expression there. I wish I could start every day like I started today, which was going to Brookside Elementary School, watching the kids walk in. I thank Principal Herxemeyer for having me join her there. Watching the kids walk in, big smiles on their faces, kind of a dance in their step, excited to be at school. We watched the morning show presentation. There were, Brandon mentioned the 5 kids who, they got Leader in Me going on there. 5 kids who took leadership, not part of Leader in Me, just decided it was something they wanted to do, raise money for Toys for Tots. They were awesome. They were part of the morning show. Like I said, I wish I could start every day like that because it just really gave me a big lift. So great things going on, and I saw some of the classes in action, and it's encouraging. So that's it. Thank you.
Mrs. Flores.
Thank you. I remembered my microphone. I guess I just would like to say thank you and happy holidays to everybody. this time of year can bring so much joy, and I'm really excited for a lot of the things that go on in our district. But I'm also pleased, thank you, Superintendent Groutman, for bringing to our attention, as Mark indicated, there is always work to be done in our district. And I just would like to acknowledge that the team and the administration and the teachers and the staff that work in this district show up here every day because of the students that are here. And I, like Mark, had the privilege of going into my schools recently, both English Village and my Holmes Road School. And I just loved, even though I was there for other things, just the interaction that the kids have with their teachers and the joy that they have of being there and the things that they derive from their school day is pretty amazing to me in its most simplistic form. So I would like to say thank you to all of those people who work for this district that show up every day and that they share the very best of themselves with our students. And I love that. I would also like to say thank you to the district this year. This time of year especially is very joyful for a lot of people, but for a lot of people, it is not. And there are a lot of people who struggle with mental health issues, and this time of year can be a struggle. So I would like to say thank you to the district for the resources that it has found and the things that it has done to reinforce the mental health awareness, as well as the resources that we have with new staff this year, with the things that we're doing with simple things like mindfulness. At our board retreat this weekend, we had Andrea Antonetti come and do a mindfulness exercise with us that I absolutely loved, that she is sharing with students, with teachers, and other things, just to find simple ways to take a couple extra minutes to remind us why we should have joy. And even though that may be fleeting for a moment because, well, the extra stresses of the holidays, there's always time to find it. So thank you very much to everybody. Happy holidays. I wish everybody much time off and safety. And as Dr. Trawick said, enjoy our concerts. I unfortunately had to miss my daughter's concert, but to enjoy being in the presence of you fine people this evening. And I will get to watch it on video, so she may not forgive me, but take the time to go and see those kids. And thanks to those music teachers and art teachers and all of those that are helping our students express their creativity in a lot of different ways. So thank you.
Thanks, Mrs. Flores. Vice President, Mrs. Farmer.
Thank you, Tammy, for reminding us of how different people respond during these times that many of us find joy and some of us find difficulties in embracing the joy. I'd like to talk a little bit about the Department of World Languages and how much I value that whole department. I recently have been traveling abroad and have seen firsthand how other countries, people in those countries are multilingual. And our country, our kids, we aren't. And I think it's really important to look at that a little bit deeper because I believe that it's connected to a love of learning, a love of reading, a love of embracing different cultures and different environments. It allows kids to have a wider world view. I'd also like to talk a little bit about the one snapshot of reading scores. That is not all that it is when we look at proficiency in reading. We tend to be a data-driven environment throughout this nation. Are there issues? Absolutely. We need to remember that many children were not receiving instruction for over a year during the pandemic, not online, not anywhere. This district rose to that occasion. Teachers had to pretty much build the airplane while they were taking on this new way of learning for kids. And I believe that as we continue to focus in on what strengths we need to instill in our children, that we will see these scores rise. I think one of the things that Greece has done as far as limiting cell phone use by using the Yonder pouches can filter down to the younger children and to families that limiting screen time allows children cognitive abilities to be able to look in other places for joy, for entertainment, reading. I remember when I was in 4th or 5th grade going to a summer school where the lights were low, and we just went and we read and we read and we read. And it was a beautiful thing. I think that when we limit ourselves to standardized tests or data, we leave out other pieces that can be fulfilling for children. And oftentimes, because of standardized tests, New York State, we have to limit kids' ability, or kids, not ability, but their access to reading, their access to writing, because we're focusing in on just one aspect of what that means for kids' learning, the data from tests. Do we have struggles happening right now? Absolutely. We need to remember that we just came out of a pandemic that has thrown kids. And I also want to talk a little bit about how someone, I can't remember who, within this district, there was a dance, maybe it was you, Kathy, how we had such an outpouring of kids who attended these dances, where they were kind of moving away from that. Kids weren't finding value in it. So we can look at that other side and say, wow, so the pandemic, as awful as it was, has also given rise to people wanting to reconnect. I love the idea that we are not just bypassing cell phones. We at home, parents, we can model reading at home, whether we're reading the back of a cereal box, or we're reading a comic book, or we're reading whatever it is that we might be reading. When the grown people are modeling the reading, this will instill it into our children. And I'm not trying to downplay what we know is a serious issue. I would like to rise up how parents and families and our schools can come together, model the love of reading, model the love of writing. And as everyone else has said, it's December. It's time for us to enjoy each other and move forward and welcome in a new year. Thank you.
Vice President Moore?
Sure, everybody said what I was going to say. Had the opportunity to go to the Career and Technology Education Fair and Family Night. It was fabulous. It was so nice to see our partners in the community there, the businesses and the schools, and so many parents coming and wanting to find out about the curriculum. I want to remind everybody that this Saturday is the Olympia Craft Fair, which I think they've been doing for as long as there's been Olympia, so please come out and support that community. It's a fabulous day. The annual tree gala, 2 more nights, 5 to 7. There's crafting, there's music, and yes, you do get to vote on the trees. Board of Education does have a tree, and I might say we might not accept the results of the election. Just putting it out there. Anyway, happy holidays to everybody, and see you in January.
Thank you, Vice President Moore. I just want to thank Vice President Moore for all the work she put into our Board of Education tree. I can assure you we will accept the results of the election. I mean, it really shouldn't be a contest, so I agree with Mr. Sawicki. It should be a foregone conclusion, but we will accept the results no matter what. I want to give a shout out to Director of Security Steve Chatterton, who recently became a Homeland Security Threat Assessment instructor. He's one of very few in the entire nation, so I want to give him a shout out for that. Steve does a tremendous job for this district. I mean, his day never stops. So I truly thank him for everything he does. I want to thank Mr. Thayer, Mr. Stetzel, and Ms. Leakey for staying at the board meeting. I mean, I truly appreciate that. I mean, some people, I mean, I know people have families and they come to speak, but there were a lot of people in the crowd that stayed to listen to people speak about unpleasant things in the school district and then left. I give you guys a lot of credit for sitting in the meeting and listening to what else is going on in the school district. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen. It means a lot, and I want you to know it doesn't go unrecognized. With that, I also want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. But I'd also like people to remember those less fortunate this time of year. This is a tough time of year for a lot of families. So if you can think about maybe our food pantry or our community schools, that would be greatly appreciated. And with that, Superintendent Groutman.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I have just a couple of things. One, I just wanted to give a shout out and thanks to all of our teachers who are leading the events. So as much as we want people to go and attend and see the concerts and enjoy that, we have a whole lot of people who are very busy at a tiring time of year, who are working to get kids ready. So huge thanks to all those teachers and administrators who are helping with those events. Another shout out to our community schools team, and I say that because it is a team that is really connected to a bunch of administrators sitting here in this room, as well as right down to the parent level, that has been working really hard since Thanksgiving to sort of get things ready for more need, because we do have a needy community, and they have been working really hard to collect and make sure that we can provide for our families. As well, they have worked on continuing to get our navigation center up and running, and we continue to help families with really dire need that they are experiencing. And yes, we are the only district in the county that actually has a navigation center that we're really proud of and how we can help. Monroe County School Boards Association completed recently and shared out position papers. And I'm proud to say that we have board leadership that has been incredibly helpful with the creation of those. So there are papers that discuss electric buses and really discuss, when I say this, in thorough and thoughtful ways about the challenges around those mandates, what's good about it, what we're going to struggle with, et cetera, right down to UPK funding, and they used us as an example because of the advocacy on our end about how do we make sure that we can actually get those funds and use them, rather than just sort of say more money was given to pre-K and then we're still stuck not being able to sort of access those funds. So I was happy to see those papers and look forward to more advocacy from our board going forward this winter into the legislative breakfast. I am incredibly proud when you look across this district at the idea of, I know people keep throwing out the word joy, and it sounds simple, but what you've seen and what we have seen in different departments is heartwarming. So everything from Kurt Keller, who, I just use as an example because he leads facilities, sending out an email about the joy tree that they have started down here in terms of getting people to write down small things that bring them joy here at work, to, Gina Larson tie-dyeing T-shirts up in HR, to homework assignments that are getting sent home at the schools around joy, to joy crafts that are happening at lunch at Lakeshore School. I mean, there's a million examples, but I've appreciated people keeping that in mind because it is a habit. It's nice to do it, but it's more around training our brains to think a bit differently and to stay focused on the positive things because there are so many good things, and it's really how we solve problems too. We build on good things. I want to address transportation. So I know that those folks are not here, but I do want to recognize the difficulty that we have experienced this year with transportation. So we heard from folks tonight who talked about wanting different bus stops. And I just want to be clear because I'm very aware, and I think many of the board members are aware of these situations. That policy that was changed has to do with the deadline and the creation of new bus stops. The reason that was created was because last year, and we still are in a bus driver crisis, don't get me wrong, but last year we were in such a difficult state that kids were getting to school late every day. You had buses that literally could not complete. We were combining runs. There was no way to get kids to school on time with the number of bus drivers that we were short. The board was very thoughtful in its approach to transportation. The board sat for an entire retreat looking at different options of the way we could reduce the amount of runs and bus drivers, which we came to a solution which was around not creating new stops after if paperwork was handed in late. I share that because the result of that has been is a lot of unhappy people, because if the paperwork was handed in after the deadline, we did not create stops. The benefit that we found is that we actually have created some stability in terms of the runs and being able to get kids to school on time. So I share that because it is a challenge. It's not an easy one. And while everybody wants us to just make an exception for one, we have over 300 people who have reached out requesting an exception. So I'm thoughtful about that because we haven't arbitrarily changed things. We haven't arbitrarily added stops based on someone's request. We have really towed the line and been incredibly consistent. No one wants to make someone happier more than me when someone calls, but it has been a challenge. So I just want to give some context to that and make sure that people understand it's not quite as simple as just stopping. And at that one daycare, those kids are not all going to the same place at the same time. So it's not just one simple stop. And on that line, I guess I would also add to what many of the board members have shared in terms of thanking the folks that came tonight. There's nothing about, Residence Forum is a great way to surface and share information with the board. I would say, though, it's limited. And I want to be really clear about that because it's a moment in time where you can share a story, and that can be really powerful and it can be really helpful. The work, though, to solve any of the problems that we've identified is not going to happen here. The work is actually going to happen through building relationships and putting together bigger plans. And most things are going to be ongoing. So bullying has never been solved in a meeting or with one particular disciplinary action. Reading scores have never been fixed with, a new staff member gets added or one thing gets done. These are complex problems that require relationships, they require time, they require work. And so I guess what I would say is I do encourage people to come and speak, and that can be here, but I also want to encourage people to reach out around sitting down and talking. I know that happens often where people can sit down with our folks here in the room to get a better understanding. But it's really about building a relationship so that if it doesn't get solved, you can still be part of the solution and helping us. This isn't about us and them, it's about us as a community really working together. So I appreciate the feedback, the input. I wish everybody an incredibly happy holiday season, and thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Superintendent Grumman. Mr. Maloney.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Shocking. Seconded by Mrs. Flores. All those in favor? Any opposed? Never any opposed there. 8-0. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Have a great Christmas.